His name is synonymous with evil and death.
Most of the ethnic cleansing that took place in Bosnia was done by Arkan.
He's hailed as a hero.
He felt he was the savior of the Serbian people.
The rest of the world calls him a war criminal.
He was public enemy number one.
He was a dangerous racist, fomenting hatred.
He was a killer, and he justified all the atrocities that he was doing.
Creating enemies at home and abroad, the Serbian paramilitary leader known as Arkan becomes the target of both NATO airstrikes and underworld assassins. The only question is, who will get to Arkan first? January 15th, 2000. The Intercontinental Hotel, downtown Belgrade. 48-year-old Željko Raznatović, a.k.a. Arkan, relaxes with friends. After a decade of violent warfare, Arkan has momentarily let down his guard. His bloody ethnic cleansing, sanctioned in a crusade for a Serbianized Yugoslavia, has ravaged 3 countries and created powerful enemies both at home and around the world. And now, the same mysterious forces that combined to destroy Yugoslavia are about to destroy Arkan. The former Federation of Yugoslavia has endured centuries of bloodshed. Catholic Croats and Orthodox Serbs have battled for a homeland from the days of the Ottoman Turks through 2 world wars.
Very much like the territory in the Mideast, in West Bank. Both sides, therefore, claimed the same land and claimed the same history. And they hated each other.
March 6, 1945, as a member of the post-World War II Allied powers, Stalin's Soviet Union installs Josip Broz Tito to run Yugoslavia, a federation of 8 republics that forces traditional enemies to live together as Yugoslavians.
Tito's Yugoslavia, the Yugoslavia created by Woodrow Wilson and the Big Four at Versailles in 1919, was doomed.
So you had Muslims to the south and Christians to the north, but right along that borderline, it was a mixture of both religions. And you had not just Roman Catholic, you had the Orthodox Christians, and you had the Muslim Islamic religion. All of that was put together. So this tension has existed for centuries.
Tito cultivates his communist propaganda, brotherhood and unity, over the deep-seated wounds of history.
You know, it was all there. The currents were running underneath, but there was the fiction of brotherhood and unity on the surface.
In 1960, Tito breaks from Stalin's brand of communism and installs his own socialist system. Yugoslavia sees an unprecedented economic boom. Born in 1952, a young Serb named Željko Raznatović grows up in this tide of prosperity.
He came from a military family. His father was high-ranked officer of Yugoslav army. He was a very strict person, and Arkan was raised up in a very tough way.
Yet by the time Arkan is a teenager, he's already been arrested for stealing purses in Belgrade's Tasmajan Park.
Since the young days, he became, like lots of tough guys here in Belgrade, involved in some criminal activities.
Summer 1970. Like the rest of the world, Yugoslavia is hit hard by the oil crisis. In an effort to bolster Yugoslavia's image of prosperity and harmony, Tito begins ushering Belgrade's undesirables out of the country.
He had the fantastic habit of pushing all local gangsters abroad. They wanted to have a quiet environment here, so they would do everything to encourage all these guys to go out. So Arkan was one of them.
The guy was a crook. He was a mafia hood.
Former Interpol agent Budimir Bovovic tracked Arkan's murderous crime spree across Europe.
I had the impression that he was a criminal of high profile, very professional and very rare.
He was very strong, smarter than most of his fellows, and he made some spectacular stuff there.
Interpol soon issues warrants to arrest Arkan on charges ranging from armed bank robbery to murder. In a bid for protection, Arkan offers his services to Tito's secret police.
A friend of his father's, a general who was head of the State Security Institute, got him a job as a state mercenary.
In return for sanctuary from international law enforcement, Arkan agrees to do Tito's dirty work.
So Arkan had free hands and he acted like a little god.
Armed with several fake passports and the state's license to kill, Arkan moves throughout Europe, silencing anyone deemed an enemy of Tito's socialist regime.
They were called patriotic missions. The task was to assassinate enemies of Yugoslavia. Arkan killed 5 political dissidents himself.
The hunting of dissidents is put on hold when Tito dies on May 4th, 1980. Yugoslavs everywhere mourn his death, unaware that they are also mourning the death of Yugoslavia. The 8 republics and provinces that formed Yugoslavia had been held together by Tito's draconian means.
Tito had suppressed these nationalistic feelings for so long and was able to control the country by his ability to understand them. And when he was gone, there was nobody really to take his place.
With Tito gone, the economy crumbles and unemployment skyrockets. November 9th, 1989, the death knell for Yugoslavia rings with the fall of the Berlin Wall.
When the rest of Europe was set free by the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the fall of communism, there was immediate tension in the Balkans.
The 8 republics immediately devolve into violent ethnic conflict.
And Serbia, as one of the dominant countries, really tried to impose its will on the rest of the former Yugoslavia.
A criminal class of people seized power. The worst elements, the scum that had come up when communism collapsed, took over and began tearing each other apart as the West stood by. It was the worst collective failure of Western leadership since the 1930s.
President George Bush's advisors urge him to stay out of the Balkan conflict.
The United States government basically just ignored it to a large extent, and more importantly, the Europeans who were right next door completely ignored it and didn't understand the power of the forces behind it.
Yugoslavia's descent into hell is a boon to those with the criminal acumen to thrive in the vacuum, men like Arkan.
When you're a gangster, you're just a gangster. If we didn't have war, probably Arkan would be just one of the gangsters. All his activity, of course, was a contribution to collapse of former Yugoslavia.
The slow death of Yugoslavia will breathe life into one of the most feared killers in history. Belgrade, 1985. As Yugoslavia crumbles in chaos, outlaw Željko Arkan Raznatović is one of the few who continue to thrive.
He could go anywhere. He could do whatever he wanted. He could slap people around and go completely unpunished.
As a thank you for silencing government opposition abroad, Arkan is made president of the fan club of Belgrade's Red Star soccer team. He opens an ice cream parlor across from the stadium, employing members of the club.
Arkan became the boss of all bosses among criminals because he is openly supported by the state.
Arkan builds a mansion, complete with 8-foot walls and closed-circuit cameras.
He was quite well off. He was doing all his criminal stuff. He saved some money from his previous activities in Western Europe.
But Arkan would soon have a new cause to champion. As communism collapses, the leaders of the 8 Yugoslav republics begin to fight for survival. Loyalties fall along ethnic lines.
When the structure began to break down, there was an attempt to really regain old tribal and national identities, ethnic identities.
You know, the end of 40, 50 years of communism is not, so easy to become a democracy. Milosevic at that moment started to really emphasize on nationalism.
Fighting for the biggest piece of the pie, Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic takes aim on Kosovo.